January fun US Coins signature auction featured a few pretty spectacular era coins. Here are some of the more interesting ones that sold. To kick things off, we will look at a couple of Washington quarter era coins. First up is the 1999 Connecticut State quarter that was struck 3 separate times. The initial strike was perfectly centered and resulted in a normal coin, but instead of being ejected, it was then somehow struck at least 2 additional times, each strike around 34% off center from the first. Residing in a PCGS slab with a grade of MS63, it sold at auction for $1,800. A 1998 Washington quarter then follows. Again, this coin was triple struck, with the first impression being normal, but the coin failing to eject from the press. Unlike the previous quarter though, the third strike is not immediately apparent, but examining the reverse especially, you can see clear doubling of the eagle and the legends of the third strike that were all caused by the already existing second strike. The coin was graded by PCGS and has a grade of MS65. When it fell under the auctioneer's gavel, it sold for $2,040. And wrong Planchet error seems to have been the order of the day, as we will soon see. The first year of issue Sacagawea dollar coin was struck on a statehood quarter Planchet. Ironically, one of the largest criticisms of this coin, and a contributing factor into its failure as a circulating denomination, is the fact that it is simply too close in size to the quarter, and the two could be easily confused in circulation, as clearly they were at the mint as well, and this is a lesson that they failed to learn from the Susan B. Anthony dollar 20 years prior. Graded by PCGS as MS67, and it sold at auction for the sum of $4,080. A beautiful Kennedy half-dollar era coin struck on a Jefferson nickel planchet is next. The strike quality is actually surprisingly good given the drastic disparity in size between the two coins, although the inevitable metal flow leaves us with a somewhat egg-shaped coin as the final result. Fully struck against the bottom collar, leaving the date and mint mark clearly in view. Graded by NGC as proof 65 with a cameo designation, it changed hands at auction for $4,440. A great little double denomination coin is on display next. This is obviously a 1974 Jefferson nickel that was struck on an already existing 1974 Lincoln cent coin. The obverse of the nickel was struck on the reverse of the penny, and it retains details from both designs. This includes both denominations, although the ENT portion of the 1 cent was not retained, and the columns of the Lincoln Memorial are seen clearly across Jefferson's jawline. Graded by NGC as MS65 red-brown, the final price at auction for this coin was $5,040. In 1943, the US Mint made Lincoln pennies from zinc-coated steel, and in 1944, what was left over from those planchets were then put to use to mint 2 franc coins for occupied Belgium. But what we see here is an error coin, where one of those steel planchets was inadvertently used at the San Francisco Mint to strike a Jefferson nickel instead. NGC gave this coin a grade of MS63, and at auction it sold for $5,520. In the early to mid-1960s, there was a national coin shortage, and the price of silver was moving ever upwards. To remediate the situation, formerly silver coins would be minted from Clad planchets starting in 1965. Massive amounts of dimes and nickels alike were minted in 1964 and 1965, and sometimes things got a little bit mixed up, where 1964 dimes got minted from Clad planchets and 1965 dimes were minted on silver planchets, as was indeed the case with this coin. Graded MS61 by NGC, it sold at auction for $13,200. Sometime in late 1974, the San Francisco Mint struck 60 million centimo coins for the Philippines. Apparently, one of these planchets must have found its way into the Lincoln penny press and was struck, sandwiched along with a regular penny planchet, at least presumably. This would explain the uniface or blank reverse of the coin. The regular penny must then also have received a reverse impression with a uniface obverse instead. Interestingly, the Stuart Blay Red Copper Collection 1974 S aluminium cent struck on a Nepalese planchet was also recently sold for $199,000. This coin, meanwhile, was graded by PCGS as MS61 and sold at auction for $19,200. Alright, so this is a memorable one. A mated pair of 2001 Sacagawea dollars, where coin number 1 is an off-metal silver-colored magnetic planchet. This, let's call it off-metal planchet, which becomes coin number 1 in our mated pair, was fed directly on top of a Sacagawea dollar reverse die cap, and as a result was broad struck between the obverse die and the reverse die cap. This die cap was then ejected, leaving our coin inside the chamber still. Then, a normal Sacagawea dollar planchet, which then becomes coin number 2 in our mated pair, was fed in. Coin number 1 was struck a second time, this time approximately 45% off-center, and coin number 1 indented most of the upper half of the obverse of coin number 2, which still retains a normal reverse, but coin number 1 has a blank uniface reverse. Graded by NGC as MS66, the pair was sold together at auction for $20,400. An Eisenhower dollar coin struck on a Lincoln cent copper planchet. On this coin, a penny planchet was fed in between proof Ike dies at the San Francisco Mint. The planchet was then struck, and upon the dies releasing, it must have bounced and rotated about 40 degrees, and was then struck again, causing 2 flange splits on opposing ends of the coin and leaving just enough details to discern that it was meant to be a 1973 S Eisenhower dollar, graded by NGC with a grade of proof 65 red-brown, to see a final price at auction of $20,400. Now, easily, the most intriguing error on offer was this 1970s proof Washington quarter dollar coin that was overstruck on an 1898 gold half eagle. Honestly, this is a first for me. I don't remember ever seeing anything like this. There are, of course, several Indian head cents struck on gold planchets, and in 2022, Mike Byers reported selling a Type 2 Buffalo nickel struck on a half-eagle planchet for a reported $400,000 via private treaty. I remember seeing that coin a couple of years ago. Very impressive. Other than that, there are a few mentions of off-metal gold coins in the Judd pattern book, but this is a modern-era proof coin. Not just an off-metal era either, but the base coin predates the overstrike by nearly 7 decades. It just shouldn't exist. Predictably, the strike is a little weak, as the half-eagle is slightly smaller than the quarter. There just simply isn't enough metal to get a full strike. The piece was authenticated by NGC with a grade of proof 66. At auction, it was sold for $93,000. Subscribe to WNN and consider watching the top 10 US Mint error coins video next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.